MLB is finally coming back. They came out with a deal between the Players Association and the MLB, and they're finally coming back, set with, I believe it's July 1st for the beginning of preseason. Um, Thoughts that they finally got this done?
I honestly am very surprised because if you look at it about a week ago, with everything going on between the Players Association and the league itself, it seemed like there wasn't going to be a MLB season this season.
No, not at all. They were going back and forth for weeks, maybe even a month. I don't even remember when they first started like trying to come up with like a deal or when the first deal was proposed. But it the Players Association hated every deal that the MLB came to them with. Like they just didn't like anything.
Yeah, I think the commissioner, I think, is Rob Manfred, if I'm correct. He's looked terrible these past couple months, in my opinion, because the way he's handled this entire situation, every other commissioner has almost looked like a genius, like Roger Goodell, the NFL. Like they've all looked great, and then you just get to him and the MLB calling his, the whole trophy that they get just a piece of metal. Like you think he would, make it a little bit more appealing than that, but I don't know.
Oh, 100%. And it's not even like it took them so long to get this deal done, and it's only going to be a 60 game season with probably playoffs after that. But I don't know if it's gonna be a shortened playoffs, if they're gonna maybe like shorten the series down instead of because I know the first series, the wild card is just I want to say it's a one off, and then it's like a best of three, best of five, best of
Yep.
seven. I don't know if they're gonna cut that down.
I think it was supposed to be the playoffs are supposed to be full still. I think it's
It's got
just
a
shortened season to
yeah,
60
which
games.
is I mean you go from 162 games like normal MLB season, and you just drop it down over 100 games. I mean obviously due to the timeline, like the MLB season would have started a month ago. Like no, maybe even more than that.
More than that,
But
yeah.
they'd be probably about 40 games in now, maybe a little more, depending on. I mean, I don't I don't know how the schedule would be out to like this point right off the top of my head, but they come out. They July 1st is going to be the first day of preseason when players can all like start coming back and getting into things. It's going to be a 60 game season. I believe just today, um, which is going to be the day before this comes out, most teams had to come out with their 60 man roster of who could be brought up to play for the MLB. And I know not every team is finalized. I think the finalization date is the first, like, or the date or the day before, like when they need their 60
Yeah, I
man.
think it's the 30th.
Yeah, like their 60 man roster.
Yeah.
And then obviously it just goes to a 40 man roster when the season starts. But that ranges from people playing on a minor league deal or someone who's just gonna go from AAA to the big league. It's
Yeah.
definitely interesting because I feel baseball had to jump on every other sport because they were just starting. Like some sports, like basketball, for example, or hockey, they were in the middle of their season. They were almost done. It was like crunch time for them. For the last couple seeds trying to get into the playoffs, it was like do or die for them. Where baseball just started, they could have banged out a deal and started their season earlier, and they would have. There's no sports on TV. They would have been the one sport that everyone was like, "Oh, there's nothing to do. There's no sports. It's baseball." They kind of, I don't even know. They dropped the ball. In my opinion, it was there for the taking. They would have had. Obviously, it's not the same kind of revenue, but they would have had all the revenue. There was no other sports on TV. There still isn't. I know like NASCAR is back. There's a couple other motorsports that are back, but nothing is officially back. Oh well, soccer is back. That is in Europe and Asia, like they are back. But the U.S. I believe starts July 8th, which we will probably talk about on our next episode. But like they all got deals done and they are set and ready. Where the MLB had the chance, they could have been the first league to be done, and it would have started at the beginning of their season. But instead, they waited and they're playing a 60 game season. And I feel like that's gonna not look bad, but I feel it's gonna put teams in a different position because now your starters, five starters, are not pitching like between the five of them the 162 games. It's 60 games. It's much shorter. It's very different where pitchers aren't going to be worn out.
Yeah, I feel like if you think of the thing as like the whole thing as a whole, I feel like baseball is in a better position than most of the leagues because, like you brought up, their season hadn't started yet. So the NBA, the NHL, they all have to figure out how they're gonna do the rest of the season because the beginning of the season was normal. Where baseball, obviously, things were gonna have to change because they weren't able to play for many months. But so obviously we knew the season was going to be shortened, but they've had many opportunities where everything could have been planned out, and I feel like everything wouldn't seem as rushed as it is right now. Because right now it feels like we just found out the MLB is starting, and like 4 days the players are going to spring training, which isn't spring training obviously this year. But you look at like the NBA or anything, they had to figure out how to restructure their entire season so that it made sense and didn't benefit other teams who played well in the first half, and teams that were about to make it didn't get a chance. MLB didn't even have that.
No, they didn't. But for the NBA, they got a deal done pretty fast, and with everything currently going on in the world, they got it done extremely fast. And I know some players don't want to come back and play. Some are a little iffy on it, but like they got a whole deal done. The MLB and the MLB Players Association were just going back and forth, and neither side really liked what the other side was giving or what the other side wanted. It was just like they were at a standstill, and they could have been the first sport that they could have been up. I mean, maybe a month ago, like they could have been up, but they've just been rejecting each deal that was thrown the other's way. They just didn't want to do it. Where
It seemed like no one wanted to play baseball.
exactly,
Either
it was
side.
all about. I mean, obviously for them, it's all about the money. Like they're getting paid millions to do what they do, and rightfully so. They deserve it. But they would have had. They could have been playing a much longer season than just the 60 games. But I mean, I guess like obviously it's not easy with the current times we have to create a deal that fits everyone. Either side, like it's a negotiation. Either side is gonna have to give something up in order for it to be done. Otherwise, it's never gonna get done if you just don't want to give up like one part of your side.
Yeah, it seemed like the players were the ones that were willing to give more because each proposal that they gave to the owners seemed to be that they gave up more each time than when the owners had their counter offer to them. It always seemed like the players were willing to give up more and the owners were doing very small bits at a time, and that's what I feel like took the longest. If they met in the middle quicker than what they did, if the commissioner and the owner they made the same jumps that the players were willing to give up to play baseball, I think we would have started baseball a couple weeks ago at this point.
Most likely, I know a lot of the players on were taking like Twitter, Instagram, all social media is just saying, just let us play, let us know where, let us know when. We just want to play. But I feel to them it was both about money, but more less about the money and more just about playing. Like they're playing a 60 game season, but they wanted to play like in a 100 game season, 120 game. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like obviously fluctuating with each deal. But they wanted to play a longer season. Obviously now they're just playing the 60 game season, but that also goes into them needing time for when playoffs end, like just an off season, because then when would their next season start? Which is a lot of like what the NBA and a lot of what the NHL and all sports that are on pause at the moment, even the MLS, like those are things that those leagues had to think about. So like for the MLB not starting yet, this was like in a way kind of good for them, but they could have done it so much sooner because they didn't have to worry about oh we have to push back the end of our season like those other sports. They were more so we can just shorten our season now for the same return next year.
I feel like this is, even though we didn't get as much baseball as we're used to, I'm a person that I watch baseball, but I don't watch all 160 however many games they play.
62.
I I I watch the playoffs and like the games where like it's a big like two big teams playing against one another, and I feel like now because there is such a limited amount of games, and like you brought up before, the pitchers are gonna be well rested going into the season, even going into the playoffs at that point compared to what they're used to at least. That it's gonna be like a great game from like game one to the end of the World Series this year.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely going to be like there's not going to be games where teams are going to and managers are just going to throw their bullpen. There's no you're playing 100 less games. You're not wasting your arms on pitchers the way you normally would. Like for aces or like even any of the starting five that can at least go 5 to 6 innings into a game, they're doing that for much less. So I think it's going to be more of a defensive kind of like the bullpen's not going to have to do go through any full games or starts. There's not going to be any of those not throwaway games. I forget the exact term of it. Like it's going to be a lot more for the starters. The starters are going to have to they're just going to pitch almost the whole 60. But I
Yeah,
guess it works
which
out
is
for them.
exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's I'm just glad that they finally got a deal done. I'm glad baseball's coming back. I'm just glad sports are coming back. It's been too long without any sports. I feel like it's the same topics almost all like over and over again. You're just talking about the same things. You're talking about like every once in a while you have one new thing that comes out and it's a talking point for the next week. And now that everything's getting not getting back to normal obviously, but things are coming back. It's a lot different. It's for everyone. It's better. Things are coming back. Things are going to be more normalish, kind of.
Yeah, they're starting to figure out how to make the correct precautions with what we're living in. And I feel like that's what's exciting. Obviously, the experience won't be the same as it was, a couple
No,
months
not at
ago
all, because they have no
before all this
fans.
started. Yeah, exactly. But I think everyone's just excited for something. At least, even if it's not as great as it was, the fan noise, the crowd noise not being there, I still feel like just sports being there is going to make it seem 10 times more enjoyable.